Alright guys, it's Chatterbox Reviews, coming at you guys with my review for the 100 Season 6 finale episode. Alright, so I'm about a week late with this review for the finale episode. I've had a really busy week. I wasn't able to do any reviews, which is kind of really bad timing because we had Succession, The Terror, The 100, this finale last week, and then we have Mindhunter coming up on Friday, and I want to do reviews and discuss all of these shows, with you guys and put up some reviews for those. But anyways, those will be coming either, today, tomorrow, probably Friday then as well, and we'll try to kind of catch up a little bit. But yeah, so this one I'm a week late on, and you know what, to be honest, I probably could have watched this a little bit earlier, but I have to say I was a little bit kind of, I wouldn't say disappointed by episode 12, but I was a little bit just surprised in the direction that they took it, and because of that I wasn't exactly sure what to expect for this finale. And I have to say, those expectations that I had going in, which were relatively low, I mean, you know what I mean, so my expectations weren't, I wasn't expecting a groundbreaking finale, where that's kind of what we got last season, right, or at least the second half, I think you could argue for sure. And I have to say this one was a little bit disappointing, or at least lackluster. It just felt a little bit rushed. A few things just didn't seem as polished as they maybe could have been. And I was a bit surprised that Jason Rothenberg was the one behind this episode, that he wrote it, because all of his other episodes have been better than this, in my opinion. I just think there were some really kind of glaring things in this episode that, I don't know, they just really surprised me, for it being written by Jason Rothenberg, the creator of the show. But anyways, so we'll go through a recap here. This will probably be a little bit of a long review because I want to talk about pretty much everything that this episode had to offer, along with then the cliffhanger and what we might see in Season 7. Of course, we now got the news that Season 7 will be the last season of the show, and it will have 16 episodes. So we'll talk all about that as well towards the end of the video, and kind of where I see it going forward and my predictions for next season. But yeah, so that's kind of the, the plan for this one. And of course, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this finale episode. I know I'm a little bit late, but if you guys can remember all the way back to last week, let me know what you thought of this one. If you thought it was a little bit rushed, or did you really like it? Like, I've seen some people, really strong reactions. We did have some really great fan moments, I will say, towards the end of this episode. One especially being Clark and Bellamy, Octavian Bellamy. So there were some great ones, but overall I've kind of heard, it's rushed. It was a little lackluster, a little disappointing, but it is what it is. Love to hear your guys' thoughts. And if you enjoy the review, please leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel. Would really appreciate that as well. But without any further ado, then let's get into a recap of this episode. And like I said, we're going in depth. This one will probably be quite a long one, so if you can stick with me for even just a little bit of this one, I'd love that. So here we go. So we resume from where we left off with last episode, which was a really great cliffhanger, where basically Indra and crew are holding, Abby, but really Simone and Abby's body, Clark, who's pretending to be Josephine, and then Russell, right? And they have guns to Raven, Gaia, and Maddie. And so we're kind of at this standoff here at the end of last episode, and I really like the way that they kind of basically wrote themselves out of that corner in the beginning of this one. I have to say, I really like the beginning, and I like some parts in the end, and then the middle was just kind of all jumbled. But anyways, so Indra and crew let the primes on the ship, because we see Gaia kind of lets her know that it really is Clark by her facial reaction. And I think this also really helps. But I will say as well, though, why isn't Raven, why isn't Raven, making some sort of face to somebody there as well? Why isn't she trying to help out? I don't know. I guess we only focus on Gaia. And it makes sense because Clark made a big deal about bringing Gaia up there. And so maybe she knew that Gaia would be able to influence her mother there and let them on the ship. And kind of knew that something would play out like that. So anyway, so that's how it is. The guy makes this kind of face telling Indra, all right, like this is really Clark. Like, don't shoot, right? Don't kill them. And that's kind of how it went. So the primes then lock Indra and the rest of the kind of people that are left on the ship, I guess. They lock them up on the bay, right, in the ship, and now plan to wipe the minds of the sleeping army, as they call it. And that's the way they've been referred to essentially the whole season, because it really is. It's like an army of like more than 100 people that are just asleep. And if they get away, they wake up, all of a sudden you got an army of, 100 plus, right? So anyways, so they want to basically wipe the minds of the sleeping army to have access to more hosts, but also to squash the threat of them waking up, right? Like, they don't want this army to wake up. And so by doing that, by clearing their minds and essentially killing them, by putting the serum into their kind of the cryo tube, then basically they'll squash the threat of the army, and also they'll have hundreds of hosts that they can just turn to Nightblood, and then they can take over. And so this is kind of their grand plan at the moment. Then Russell declares that they will go to planet Beta, which is 20 years away, which is also interesting because he's kind of just abandoned Sanctum now. Like, it's just done. Which, the one thing I didn't understand here is because of this whole adjustment protocol and all that stuff. So why would they just abandon Sanctum after they just went through that whole adjustment protocol? Maybe they actually, it takes 20 years to go to planet Beta, and then they're going to stick out there for a few, maybe even 100 years, and then come back to Sanctum when everybody is either, dead or, few believers are left. So I'm not exactly sure what the whole plan behind that is, but either way, he tells them he wants to go to planet Beta. We see Clark, who of course is still acting as Josephine, says that she's down for it. Really awesome stuff, and I think she says like a little genocide first, and then a new planet or something like that. So I thought that was of course, she's still trying to play Josephine here. So then there was also a nice sequence before this, or not so nice, I guess. But it's just a well done, I guess what I mean. But a sequence before this with Maddie, who orders the Grounders to attack. And they just get shot down, just mowed down by the Prime Guards. I think there was like 6 or 7 of them that just get mowed down. And then we see Clark actually goes and knocks her out to play up the role of Josephine, which is just, heartbreaking, to be honest, of Clark having to do this to her daughter. But we've already seen her do some stuff, right? She injects her earlier, basically putting her to sleep because she's screaming and angry. And also, I don't know, I guess I could talk about this throughout the review, but I think this scene really reminded me as well, is this whole Dark Commander storyline was just so underdeveloped to me that in this episode it just felt like kind of heavy-handed that they had the Dark Commander just fully taking over Maddie's body now. It's like, so, since when did that happen? How did this happen so fast? So I will say, in the sequence here where she orders the Grounders to attack, obviously that's not really Maddie, that's the Dark Commander speaking through her. And so anyways, I just thought, okay, and obviously it didn't work out too well for them, because they just get mowed down. They don't have any guns, of course, at this point either. So anyways, that is kind of how the beginning sequence goes. But the important stuff there is they're going to the new planet. They want to kill the sleeping army because of the, wipe out the threat, and also to get some more hosts. All right, so then we go back to Bellamy and company, who are taken prisoner, are taken prisoners by a group of believers as they get them in the container. And then I think they throw in like a little gas bomb or something like that, and basically put them to sleep. They take them out of the container. So when they come to, they are part of a conversion ritual, right? They're all trying to convert all these non-believers, and especially the Earth people, right? Because they don't really have a stance one way or another. So they're just trying to indoctrinate them or convert them to the kind of belief, right? The Sanctum belief. And so basically they're faced with a choice of either they drink this serum, which is called the Blood of Sanctum, which is the title of this episode, or they get their throat slit. And I like the way they do this because they show us an example of how it would really go. And shows us the stakes too, because the girl who was, I believe it was it last episode or episode 11, where the Gabriel, girl that we saw in the tent trying to guard Clark and Bellamy and all that stuff. Well, she ends up just refusing, and they just slit her throat, and she dies right there and then in front of them on the carpet. And so I like the way that they kind of raise the stakes there. And then we get to Miller, and I'm like, it's a finale, right? Like, it's a finale episode. Like, maybe Miller could go here. But we see Miller kind of make that eye contact with Bellamy. And Bellamy basically, not in so many words, but says, just drink it, right? Just drink it. At least you'll survive. So Miller does drink it, and before the rest have to, we see Murphy and Amori arrive. But of course, the thing is here is the people, right? The Gabriel people, the Sanctum people, I should say, now see them as the new primes, and so they are just, they're just bowing down to them. Hallowed be their name, saying all that type of stuff. Well, meanwhile, Murphy and Amori never actually went through the process, and they're still just regular people trying to save Bellamy and company. So, anyways, I like this angle, though. I thought it was really great. So Murphy and Amori able to get Bellamy and them out of there, and they make it for the palace where Gabriel waits for them. When the rest of the people try running after them to get the Earth people, so they are, they kind of bow down to Murphy and Amori, but they even realize at this point, I don't even think they necessarily realize that Murphy and Amori aren't actual primes. I think they just realize, no, we can't let them take the Earth people. We have to take them back. Or at least, of course, that's what they refer to them as. So, anyways, so we see them get to the palace. They close the door in time. But kind of an interesting kind of sequence there, being chased down by basically the townspeople, for sure. So, anyways, I like this as well. Murphy finally redeeming himself. Again, I feel like we've seen this now for at least 3 seasons. This whole story with Murphy, he's a traitor. No, he's back on our side. No, he's their side. And then he comes back and redeems himself at the end of the season. And then he's mad at everybody else. So, it's a little disappointing. I would actually have rather just seen him actually turn into a prime and then see where that goes, because I think that would have been new for his character. Either way, though, Murphy redeems himself, and they rescue them. All right, back on the ship then, Simone is getting ready to insert the serum into the cryo chambers to kill everyone. But this scene here was the scene that I think we've all been waiting for, probably since episode 9, I guess, or episode 10. I can't remember exactly, but it's the episode where Clark essentially takes back over her body. No, I believe it's episode 11, right? Or episode 10. Anyways, so Clark then refuses to give her the serum, finally revealing herself as Clark and not Josephine. So this, and it actually takes them a moment too, because Clark tries to still keep up the act, says, oh, you might be on the neuromesh and all that stuff, right? But then Russell just talks her out of it. So she's given no choice here but to either give up the serum and keep playing Josephine and kill all those people, or, right, reveal herself and somehow save them, right? But her revealing herself also is a huge risk, because then it basically sets everything in the rest of this episode in motion. So we see Russell is just devastated here as he realizes that she is not Josephine and that Josephine's gone. So we see Clark run away, holding Simone at gunpoint, and basically running away, which of course is her own mom, right? This is still Abby's body that Simone is inhabiting. So it's still a little bit, for Clark to be able to hold that gun to her and continue that would also be, a big deal for her. But I like this as well, how Clark says, I forget exactly how it says, but something like, I'm not really that sorry, but sorry for your loss, or something like that, right? I like that line as well. But we also, we see Russell just devastated here, because he really lost Josephine this time. She is gone. The mind drive is gone. It's not just that she lost the body, she lost the drive, so she's gone. And so Russell just reacting like a normal parent would in losing his daughter. As we already really saw that, right, with the whole Red Sun Rising at the very beginning. Anyway, so as a result of this, Simone and Russell decide to take Maddie as a leverage, and then they will go down and track Clark down, right? So Russell basically goes to take Maddie, and Abby, or Simone, goes to take Clark. So the Dark Commander code almost is deleted, which would in turn delete the flame totally, which is an interesting one too, because, and to be honest, I kind of like that. I kind of like the flame just being deleted permanently. I think it's run its course at this point, the whole Commander story, and to delete it, I think, is kind of turning the page to a new chapter in the show with the whole Sanctum thing. And obviously, we're not going to have a lack of mind drive or technology stuff, because look at what we've already seen in this season, and there's been almost nothing with the Commander chip yet going wrong, right? Except for the whole Dark Commander thing. But that's only started in the last few episodes. So anyways, so I like the way that it really tells the story here of the flame's going to be deleted if we delete the Dark Commander. And I actually like that. So anyways, basically, it's almost deleted, right? Raven has finally figured out how to crack this and to delete the flame. But, of course, Russell comes in and disconnects Maddie's chip from the computer just before it can be, basically the process can be finished. So we see Maddie smile as she's taken away by Russell and the guards. I just thought this was perfect because it's like, yeah, the Dark Commander wants to kill them probably more than Russell does at this point. You know what I mean? Like, or at least Raven for sure. Because he's pissed at Raven for trying to clear him, right, of Maddie's mind. And so I just really love the smile here. I thought it was just a really, maybe some people thought it was throwaway, but I really like this because, you know, honestly, I believe, like, this Dark Commander probably wants to kill them more than Russell does at this point. And I just thought that was really great. And then that also really explains well then the next scene where the Dark Commander tries reasoning with Russell and actually convinces him to take his side. And so I thought that was really well done, sorry. So meanwhile then, we see Simone then tracks Clark down in the ship's bay, where she straps herself in and threatens to release the airlock, which would then, of course, float everybody there, right? Except for her, because she's strapped in. I do have a question, though, on that as well, because, like, wouldn't the pressure be so high, a strap like that, would it really hold in that type of pressure when she releases the airlock? I don't know, maybe. You know, a lot of other sci-fi shows and movies, I guess it does. So, you know, we'll leave it at that. But either way, so suddenly Simone then turns around and points the gun at her own people and tells Clark that she's really just been pretending this whole time. We see the people then relinquish their weapons to Simone, right, to Abby. But we see Clark is still skeptical. And right at this point, this was obvious, right? I mean, right, like, this was obvious that it wasn't Abby, that Simone was just playing this act to basically convince Clark to unstrap herself and then come down and join them again. And she might have killed her at that point, you know, like Simone probably would have killed her there. So anyways, Clark is still skeptical, thank goodness. I was kind of scared here. I'm like, really? They're going to have Clark believe that? Although we saw Abby believe, you know, that Josephine was Clark almost like the entire first half of this season. So, you know, I guess it's not out of the question. But anyway, so we see Clark is skeptical and asks Simone what her dad's name is. And after she doesn't answer right away, Clark pulls the airlock, floating the others, but Simone somehow manages to hold on to her, which then essentially, Simone holds on to her, right, holds on to her legs, and Clark is just like, hold on for dear life to this strap, right? Like I said, maybe it would break, maybe she actually should be floated there. Either way, so we see them kind of a little bit kind of struggling with each other, trying to get each other off, right? Simone is trying to hold on as hard as she can, and Clark's trying to get her off. So eventually then, after a few moments, we see Clark is able to push her off and out of the ship as she floats into space. This was just a crazy moment in the episode. We see Clark then closes the airlock again and falls down to the ground, and we see at this point just such an emotional moment for Clark, because I think also too this scene is important because her mom died a while ago, right? Like, her mom didn't die in that moment, and I think that's what allows Clark, or at least, you know, gives her the ability to do what she did there, right? Because I think if that's actually still Abby and she has to push her out like that, I don't think Clark can do that. But it's because she's already been dead for quite a while now, and she's gone, right? Like, this is Simone, she confirms it, she doesn't even know her dad's name, and so she is able to push her out there because she already knows that Abby died a while ago. That's not Abby anymore, even though it looks like her mom, right? So I really like that scene there. And that's what made the action, you know, doable for her, right? That's what gave her the ability to do that. But it's still devastating for Clark to do that again, right? It looks like her mom, but it's not really her mom, right? And I think this is also really the only closure she got, because she wasn't there when Abby was killed. And basically, she just saw Simone show up in Abby's body, and she wasn't even able to react authentically at that point because she was still playing Josephine. So this is kind of a moment where she gets that closure, and it's just devastating, right? But what a send-off for Paige Turco. I was really surprised here and shocked. This was only 16 minutes into the episode, and, like, Paige Turco was just gone, right? Like, she's floated. Abby was obviously gone, but Simone's gone. So anybody who, you know, somehow doubted the process and thought, you know, Abby still might be in there, she's not. Paige Turco is gone. So we see Henry and Cusack and Paige Turco both go in the same season. So that's pretty much the only 2 adults that were left of the group now gone. I might be wrong with that one, but you know what I mean. Like 2 of the I guess the main cast. But anyways, 2 of them are now gone. So those are 2 pretty big losses for this season. I'm expecting some new characters next season for sure. But anyway, so as a result of this, Russell just so angry and so devastated here because he then watches Simone float and then immediately goes to kill Maddie for revenge because now Clark has killed Josephine, now she's killed Simone, like the 2 people that Russell loves, and he's gonna now go kill the one person that Clark really loves, or at least that is her family, right? So then this scene plays out really great. Like, this is a really great scene. So then, the Dark Commander, who has now but all taken over Maddie's body, is able to reason with Russell here and convinces him not to kill her, which would also kill him, right? So it makes sense. It's like, why would the Dark Commander want Maddie to die? Because that means then he dies. He has no body to inhabit to essentially take control of the situation. So I love this line. Russell says, like, who the hell are you? Right, because he's expecting, like, this little girl, right, and, like, he's just going to kill her because it's Clark's daughter, and it's like, all of a sudden, this is not Clark's daughter, like, who the hell is inside of her body? So I really like that, and I thought it was a great question. Again, I wasn't too happy where they took this Dark Commander storyline throughout the season. I thought the progression was just a little bit fast, and that's what felt a little bit rushed about this episode. So I thought it was like, it's such a great question. I think we were all asking that. It's like, who the hell are you? Right? I mean, I think, to be fair, like, casual viewers, they might even be confused by this scene, to be honest, because this has happened so fast, and it's been such a small little thing in the background up until, like, the last 2 episodes, and all of a sudden, it's like the main plot of the season now. So anyways, so then we see Russell with the Dark Commander, of course, Maddie's body, on his side. They go to the bay to deal with the remaining people, now including Clark, who walks in crying over the loss of Abby. Again, a really devastating one there. I'm not sure if she actually says that she lost Abby there or not, because she does say it a little bit later on once again. But either way, just a really emotional scene there, because we see, right, obviously we just saw what happened, and then we see her kind of walking in there and the people reacting to her as well. So as they walk in, the Dark Commander tells them to kneel, and Clark then is the only one who actually listens and kneels. But I thought this was interesting because, wait a minute, right? Wait up a minute here. So Maddie tells them to attack earlier, and they attack, right? But that's still the Dark Commander in Maddie's body. So when the Dark Commander now comes in and says kneel, I don't understand why they don't kneel. I mean, at least some of the main cast, maybe not. But the rest of the grounder crew, right, or the army or whatever, why don't they kneel here? Why is Clark the only one to kneel? Anyways, maybe they like got smart and they were like, okay, well, we just got like mowed down the last time we listened to her. Maybe we shouldn't this time. Anyways, so then in order to get Maddie back, she believes that Maddie's still in there somewhere and that she will be able to get her out. So she puts a gun to her head and threatens to pull the trigger. She says, I've already lost my mom today. I can't lose you too. Just a really great line. And it's true, right? I mean, let's be honest. Russell just lost his wife and daughter, right? Like, Clark is not ready to lose her daughter after just losing her mom. So actually very similar situations here for both Russell and Clark. Anyways, so she counts down from 3 to pull the trigger. Maddie finally emerges out of her body, really. As Clark gets to 1, she comes back into her body. And then she orders the grounder people to take the Prime's weapons. And they go, right? They go after the Primes and they take all their weapons and essentially like arrest them, right? But it's like, that just seemed a little bit fast. And then why would the Prime Guards not fight back after they easily killed several people before that? Were the Prime Guards really that taken aback that Maddie just, somehow showed up now in her own body and made that order? The whole thing just seemed really quick and rushed, along with just the overall kind of tone of this whole episode to me. And this was like a pivotal scene. So I don't know. I'm not sure how I thought about this one. And the whole thing with Maddie emerging at 1 as she pulls the trigger, I just thought that's a little too cliche. I would have liked to see her not emerge and then see what Clark did after that. And then have Maddie, you know what I mean? So I just thought it was a little bit too quick, a little bit rushed. It seemed a little bit maybe even cliche. And then, the Prime people, seriously, they just killed 6 or 7 people in like a second earlier. Why? And they have guns and they're loaded and they're holding them. Like, why not just start shooting all the people then once the, Maddie emerges and says, basically attack them, take their weapons. And then again, right, the grounders listen to her now. Anyway, so I didn't really like this sequence at all, but I will say I like this. So, however, just as Maddie comes back and hugs Clark, she begins then to seize as the Dark Commander is now choking her out in the mind space, very angry at her for being so weak, right? And this also, of course, jeopardizes his goals and his mission, basically, to take over, and being able to control the group, right? So they immediately get her to the lab, and Raven is able to delete the commander chip, which gets rid of the Dark Commander once and for all, or so we think. And then once they take the chip out of her neck, Maddie returns back to normal. So this was interesting again. As I said before, I like that the flame is being deleted and that kind of storyline is now being closed. But I will say, for all the time we spent on it, for all these seasons with the commander chip and all the Alexa stuff, or sorry, not Alexa, Becca is who I was thinking of, right? Allie. Anyways, so all that time we spent, for it to be like deleted this easily, just to be removed from Maddie that easily, I don't know. I feel like maybe there could have been more of a process along with that, but it is what it is. Maddie returns back to normal. But the biggest thing here, and this is the biggest like plot hole that I've seen, in the last, maybe this season, to be honest. So the Dark Commander then we see uploads his own code, or this is what it seems like, right? So he uploads his own code into the ship's computer system while they aren't paying attention, right? Raven's kind of hugging Clark. They're all paying attention to Maddie. And all of a sudden, the computer starts uploading in the background. And this was the code, right, for the Dark Commander. So I'm thinking it's like damn, right? Like, we're really stretching out this Dark Commander thing, right? Like, now he's going to upload, himself to the computer and all this stuff's going to happen, right? It's kind of an interesting concept, though, I thought, right, for the show. Not something that I don't think we've seen this before, right? Of all the things we've seen, the ship being controlled by an evil AI Dark Commander, basically lines of code of a Dark Commander. That's a new one. I don't think we've seen that before, right? A ship kind of being possessed by this AI. And so I thought, okay, like, they're stretching out this Dark Commander thing, it's a little too much for me, but kind of a cool concept. Like, let's see how he controls the ship and if they'll be able to land back on Sanctum. But hold on, later, they just arrive and they don't even mention this at all. So is this even what happened? Did he even upload his code? Where did this code just upload to? Because we saw it say upload complete. And they really focused on this at the end of the scene. And then went to commercial. And then we literally have no mention of it in the rest of the episode. So I really like to get your guys' thoughts on that one. I don't know if I'm just missing something or something like that. But I thought this was a massive plot hole. It's like, they set up this big thing. He uploads his code. And apparently it's not to control the ship. Which I would have liked them to go in that direction. If that's what they were going for there. But either way, that's what it is. We don't get another mention of it in this episode. Alright, so then we head back to Sanctum with Bellamy and company, right? So we see after Gabriel convinces Murphy and the others to go out and fight the rest of the Sanctum people in order to save the non-believers, including some of his friends still left, of course, right? Basically the Gabriel group that was still there. The group then moves in and they have Murphy bring in Gabriel as a distraction to get into that tavern, right? Where they're doing this basically conversion ritual stuff where they have to drink the blood of Sanctum and all that stuff, right? So we see Amori stays back with Miller and Jordan. Now, I want to use this time to mention my gripe with Jordan this season. All right, so just quickly here, and then we'll get back to the way this rest of the scene plays out. So, Jordan, as we find him here, right, they find him in the little, room in the palace there. So they go to save him, and he's in the midst of this conversion ritual. So he's kind of in this state, kind of a really kind of horrifying, actually, because it looks like they kind of not slit their wrists, but they kind of make these slits on their arms, and they're like bleeding a lot. Like, they're losing a lot of blood here by this whole kind of ritual here, and he's kind of in this state. He's not, really in it. Anyway, so it doesn't look good for him at this point, the way that they find him, and then they can't even converse with him because he's stuck in this state. So I just thought, like, what a wasted character this season for Jordan. And then we see this little scene with him after this when they kind of, when Bellamy comes and talks to him. Man, like where's he been? He literally hasn't been in this season. I think since episode it's either 6 or 8, but I think it's 6 that he saves Priya from getting stabbed. It's like, this is Hoppy. This is Harper and Monty's son here. And I thought, like, setting up for such a big character arc in the season, especially the first three, episode 2, 3, and 4, with him and Delilah. I'm like, okay, like, they're really giving him a lot to do here. And that's why I'm still wondering if Shannon Kook actually went on to another show here or something. I just don't understand why they wouldn't give him any screen time for like 4 straight episodes. And then when we come back to him, he's not even, in this conscious state anymore. And they can't even have a conversation with him. And then the conversation they do have at the very end just seemed really off key to me. So anyways, just really disappointed where they took Jordan this season, but I hope he does have a bigger role in next one. All right. So as they get into the tavern there, Gabriel and Murphy both drink the Sanctum blood, but both of them took the antitoxin before that, and so this gives them a chance to begin fighting back, right, against the people who now think they're in this state, but they're not really, right? So they begin to fight back then, and then we see Octavia, Echo, and Bellamy fight back outside to make sure that the crowd can't get into the tavern, right, once they realize that stuff is going bad in there. And then also, we see this kind of twist where all these people are now getting together to burn down the whole tavern, which, their own people are in there. And I think Bellamy even says that, like, your own people are in there. Like, what are you doing? And they say, it's worth it. It's a sacrifice that we have to make, right, to basically get rid of all these non-believers in there, including our own people. So that was just kind of a crazy, dark twist. So anyways, people are about to burn down this thing, and Bellamy, Echo, and Octavia are the ones, basically out there to stop them. So a really great fight sequence all around here for our badass characters. And I do mean badass. I think Echo and Octavia probably our two best woman fighters, I think. Yeah, I think so. Or maybe Indra, I guess you could say too. But anyway, so Octavia and Echo, really great. And then we see, of course, Bellamy and Murphy and Gabriel. Gabriel had some nice, little scenes in this sequence as well with them taking these guys down. And they go down pretty easily, too. They don't really put up much of a fight for these characters. But anyways, so the whole sequence then ends in Octavia tackling down the woman who sets herself on fire, who's running for the tavern to hopefully set it on fire. And she ends up tackling this woman down. So anyways, I thought this was, like, I don't think it was supposed to be funny, but just the way this all played out, I thought it was a little bit kind of ironic, I guess. So maybe that's why it was a little bit comedic when she kind of went to tackle this woman down. But anyways, so they knock down all the people, and as Gabriel walks out, he sees this tattoo on Octavia's back relating back to the anomaly. He recognizes it, right? And I thought, of course, like, the only reason he sees this tattoo is because she takes her jacket off, because it starts getting on fire after she tackles the girl. So she takes the jacket off, and then this tattoo's on her back. But my question is, wouldn't she have checked her back already? Like, when she came back from the anomaly, and Gabriel and her were trying to figure out what happened and all that stuff, wouldn't she have taken her jacket off at least once? Maybe she would have looked in a mirror somewhere. Like, how would she not realize that she had this massive tattoo on her back? It's somehow, like, even just the visual of this tattoo on her back would be, like, surprising, like, shocking. Like, I didn't get a tattoo there, right? It's not like she already had a tattoo there to begin with. So anyways, I just thought that was a little bit phony the way this all was. But anyways, it plays out, and Octavia says they must go back now to the anomaly to see what it means. So 35 minutes into the episode here, I really thought it was a little late to tie in the anomaly, in my opinion. So, I just, again, right, the whole focus on the anomaly, very similar to Dark Commander, right? Or even more so, because it was even more in the forefront of some of these episodes towards the middle of the season here. And then, you get Diosa, you leave her in the anomaly for now, right? And then you have this, basically we pause from the anomaly. The whole episode plays out. We get to the 35-minute mark out of 42 minutes, and then they bring in the anomaly stuff, and then they kind of try to tie it back. So again, I just felt like this was a little bit rushed, maybe not all the way thought out. And at least it seems like it, right? Or maybe this is what they were planning, but I I don't know. I didn't like it. I thought this should have been brought up a lot earlier if they were going to bring in the anomaly in this cliffhanger, which they should have, right? I think it was good that they did, but either way. So then we see Clark and crew return back from space to reunite with everybody, including the Sanctum people who have now returned to the village. I like this a lot because it's, I actually really love this whole sequence, except for the Jordan stuff. But it was really great because there's a really great parallel to the Red Sun Rising and the people coming back up those stairs to their village. After the basically the what was it? The eclipse, right? The eclipse is over and they come back. So that was a really great parallel to that because this almost is like an eclipse that happened and now they're returning to the village. So the toxin has subsided now, though the death count is significant as we see many, right? Like several body bags on the ground and people heartbroken over their loved ones dying. And that's an important component of this too, right? Like, good people died, right? If they were non-believers, they got killed by the believers, and even some of the believers would have died then as well. Just a really chaos ensuing here, and they end up killing each other. So just really an emotional thing. And it's like, it's all Russell's fault. Like, he's the one who dropped this bomb and all that. So, I mean, I really think their bodies are in Russell's hands, really, for doing what he did. And they didn't have the antitoxin. So anyways, so that's how that all goes. And again, right, no mention of the Dark Commander taking over the ship. Apparently they landed fine, and that just never happened. So anyways, well, I guess we'll ignore that for now. So Bellamy that we see briefly talks to Jordan to make sure he's all right. And this is just what I didn't like. So Jordan seems upset that Priya was killed and even blames Bellamy for basically getting her killed, for telling the truth to the people, which then would cause her to die, right? So, upset that Priya's killed. Then he says that the Sanctum people had peace before they had got there, right? Essentially saying that the body bags and all these people dying is their mess, right? Their fault, right? I mean, this whole thing is their fault that the Sanctum people died and that, they had peace before that we got here and we just ruined it all. And I'm like, maybe I would get this if Jordan's, kind of character arc this season was this one of kind of feeling for the Sanctum people, even maybe even being indoctrinated into the way they think and all that stuff. But if you don't show him for a good 6 episodes, I think it was 6 episodes that he wasn't in it, you don't give him much development, and then all of a sudden you come back with a scene like this, it just felt really off, man. It just felt really off. So I'm not a big fan of this one. We see Bellamy then walk away, and we see then Jordan holding a chip, or at least it looks like a mind drive, right, in his hand. So I'm wondering then if this was given to him by the sketchy Sanctum guy, who we see in the background of this scene as well, who was performing the ritual on him earlier. So I'm wondering if that he was partly converted, or is this really where they're going to take his character now next season, where he's going to be kind of this like rebellious, kind of guy who believes, whatever these people tell him or something like that. I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen here, but I just wasn't a big fan of that. It really reminded me of the City of Light, the way that like Jordan reacted so differently to the way that his, the other people of his group would react. And then he holds the chip in his hand, which is very reminiscent of City of Light. So anyways, maybe he was slightly converted. Maybe this process actually did work somehow and he is a believer now and they're going to have to, get this out of him in next season. I'm not sure. Anyways, not a big fan. All right, then we get the best scene hands down of this episode. Just a beautiful scene with Bellamy and Clark here. So we see that she tells him about Abby, about what happened. She says she tried to do better, but then she lost her mom as a result. And she says, tell me it was worth it, right? Tell me it was worth it for my mom dying that we did better. And Bellamy says, we did do better. I have to believe that matters. Wow. And then they hug. So I thought this was, again, just a few lines exchanged here, but just really, really great. And I thought this really did a great job of elevating the meaning and the whole kind of concept of this season that's been kind of in the background of this one of doing better, right? That's been kind of the theme of the entire season. And it does a really great job in elevating that theme and also elevating the meaning behind Abby's death. And hopefully, of course, next season we'll see it kind of impact the characters more, obviously specifically Clark. And so I thought this really, basically epitomized the whole concept of, doing better, right? It comes with a cost. The cost of doing better was losing her mother for Clark. And so I just thought that was a really great sentiment that they set here, in that doing better comes at a cost, right? When you don't just pull that lever, right, and kill all the people, yeah, you're probably going to lose somebody that you love, in order for you to do better and try to save those other innocent people. So anyways, and that's what happened. So I'm wondering then next season if we'll see them kind of revert back to the other instead of them trying to do better, because maybe they don't want to, maybe Clark doesn't want to lose Maddie or something like that. So anyways, again, really beautiful scene here of Bellamy and Clark. I believe it was only like a minute long, but best scene of the episode for me. This was really great. And again, really did a great job in elevating the theme, which I think some people were really frustrated with, but I think this really, really wraps it up well. All right. So then we get our cliffhanger to end. So Gabriel, Echo, and Octavia and Bellamy head to the Anomaly camp, where Gabriel then leads them to the stone underground, which displays lettering all around its surface. He says it's thousands of years old, or I think he says hundreds, something like that. So he touches the letters and inputs the code from Octavia's tattoo, right? So there's certain letters that are highlighted in red on her tattoo, and so he says that this is the code. So anyways, so he kind of touches these letters on the stone, and in order to enter this code, and then we see Octavia then touches the last letter, which is O, which of course matches the first letter of her name. So it is kind of meant to be, right? So this then causes the ground to suddenly shake, and the anomaly immediately spreads as we watch it from space. I really like this angle here. So we see Gabriel goes upstairs with the others to get a better look, and then Octavia announces she's here. Right? Basically saying like, oh, here's Diosa, right? She's coming back from the anomaly. And so we see this kind of green cloud of smoke with the anomaly just spreading and really just like basically rushing through the camp, and obviously the surrounding area. But anyway, so she says she's here, but instead of Diosa, it's not Diosa. It's not Diosa. I think we were all expecting that, right? So out of the anomaly cloud becomes Hope, who is Diosa's daughter. And I really like the way that they set this previously on, because, they showed the scene where Diosa says Hope, and comes up with a name for her, which kind of made it obvious of what would happen in the end here. But anyways, and I have to say that I did predict this one as well. I said this, episodes ago, that it'll probably be Diosa's daughter who emerges instead of Diosa, because it's been years that have taken place, while meanwhile it's just been a couple days in real time. But anyways, so Hope comes into the tent and hugs Octavia, and then she says, I couldn't get out of it. It was my mother. I'm so sorry, Octavia, she says, and then she stabs her. So again, this was a really interesting sequence here. I couldn't get out of it. I think this is what she said. I couldn't get out of it. It was my mother. I'm so sorry, Octavia. And so I'm not sure if that means that Diosa died then in the anomaly and something went wrong and Hope wasn't able to get out of it right away. Anyways, either way, and then we get this thing from Octavia where she just got stabbed, right? Like she's got stabbed. She's starting to bleed out here at this point. But the way it is shot here and the way it happens is that Octavia is shielded from Bellamy and the others, so they can't see that she just got stabbed. They just think that they're hugging. And so this gives them a few seconds then to talk to each other here. So Octavia then whispers something to her, something about waiting, and I've seen, I saw the closed caption on this as well, something like be brave, or something like wait. I don't know. I've seen multiple closed captions of this, and I'm just thinking, I'm like, really bad audio here for the end sequence of the season for this big cliffhanger, and I'm like, what is going on? Like, I can barely hear this. But at least that was on my end. I'm not sure if I was just kind of on a bad one. I recorded this on the PVR, so I wouldn't think that it's like any worse than what it was live. Anyways, I could barely hear this, and I had to turn closed captioning on. And then she says, tell him it's done. That's what Octavia tells Hope. Which could mean what, right? Who's him? Is him Bellamy, right? So I'm not exactly sure who that is. And of course, that's what we are going to speculate on for the next year, right? That's the cliffhanger. So then we see Octavia then falls into Bellamy's arms, then suddenly vanishes as she fades into this green dust just in his hands there, and he loses her. And then we see Hope also falls unconscious at the same moment that Octavia basically vanishes. So that's interesting too, and I'm wondering if she actually just died there, or if she really just went unconscious. Not exactly sure what happens there. Anyways, we see Bellamy then look outside the tent for her and calls out her name, Octavia, right? And it gets no response, of course. And then we kind of cut up here, right? And they kind of show us the trees, the top of the trees. We hear the radio signals, nothing clear enough to really hear here. And then watch from space as the anomaly shrinks once again and the episode ends. To me, it seems almost as if the anomaly like swallowed Octavia up, and now it just closes itself up again. And then, hopes in the world, Octavia's swallowed up, and then that's just how it is, right? That's just how it ends. So anyways, that is where the end of the season, that's where the season ends, and that is our cliffhanger for season 6. Pretty crazy stuff there to end off the episode. Alright, so in terms of rating for this finale episode, as a finale episode, I'm going to give this one a 4.2 out of 5. And my biggest concern that I didn't mention in this recap, which I want to, really, really briefly discuss here, is what in the hell happened to Russell? I mean, I think, to me at least, this is 2 seasons in a row where the main, season-long villain, it was just so lackluster the way they went out. Same with McCreary last season. That's exactly what I was thinking of. I'm like, right when this happened too, right at the end of the episode, I'm like, so we got another McCreary again, right? The way that McCreary went out last season was just so lackluster. It just almost felt rushed. I mean, really, he didn't even get, I think Clark, stomps on his neck or something like that and ends up killing him. But we don't even see it. The screen just fades to black, and then, we just hear the sound of her stomping on McCreary, and that's it. We don't even see him, we don't really even see him die there. And he's defeated really easily in that scene. So, and then we get Russell. All that happens is the Grounders go over and take the Prime's weapons, and then we see Russell's just look of astonishment that the Dark Commander crossed him, that Maddie was able to come back to her body, and that's how he's defeated. And that's it. We literally don't see him at all for the rest of the episode. We don't see him killed or anything. That was really frustrating, man. If that's, season-long villain, they really gave Russell a lot of development, more development than other villains in previous seasons. And, to have him just go out like that, I don't know. I don't know. That was just really frustrating and a little disappointing to me in that. And I think overall this is just basically a result of this rushed nature of this finale. It really did seem rushed. I think that's the best word to describe it, really. Because to me, they just had too many things going on at once and never quite managed to tie them all up in my opinion, I guess, right? Because they tied some things up, I guess. They tied the Dark Commander up to an extent. The anomaly, of course, is still a big question mark. They tied up the whole Prime thing with Simone and Russell and Josephine and the family and all that. So I should say that. They did tie up, a few things. But it's just that they had so many things left, including this anomaly and the Dark Commander stuff. And then they tried to tie it up with then also giving us a little bit of a cliffhanger towards some other stuff. And I just didn't feel like it came together that well. I thought this was done much better last season. I think some people complained, though, too, that last season's finale was a little bit rushed, which I think I would agree. I mean, it wasn't perfect, for sure. But the second half of that finale, I thought was really, really well done. And again, Russell, this scene is, halfway through the episode, and that's just how it ends for Russell. So anyway, it's just a little bit frustrating. To me, this didn't really even feel like that much of a finale, really. I mean, it feels like almost just an episode, and then we'll get one in 2 weeks again. That's just the way it felt like to me. It didn't feel like, maybe except for the cliffhanger at the end, it didn't really seem like that much of a season finale. It just didn't seem like they wrapped up enough to really give us a satisfying feeling at the end of 13 episodes. And then the biggest question left is Octavia really dead? Did they kill her off? I don't know. I really don't know at this point. I don't think she's dead. I don't think they would kill Octavia off. They have killed big characters off in the past. Obviously, Abby and Kane both go this season. That it definitely does happen in the show. They, Lincoln, right? They kill off some big characters at some odd times, but I'm not sure that Octavia died. I think this is going to be a very big focus of next season. I think she will come back eventually, but we'll have to see what goes on there. Next season will be the last, but 16 episodes. I just want to mention that as well. So they'll have kind of 3 more episodes to kind of get things going and maybe give themselves a little bit more of time so it doesn't feel as rushed as this one. So I am looking forward to that and seeing how they end off this series. It's going to be crazy, but anyways, my favorite character for this one, of course I got to go with Clark, Alyssa Taylor. I thought this was an amazing acting job. Maybe her best acted episode of the series, I would honestly say. Maybe Nevermind. Maybe Nevermind was a little bit better, but Alyssa Taylor, I mean, the emotions that she displayed in this episode, and then kind of I guess she still is really, quite devastated and heartbroken over losing Abby, but then also kind of the, elated feeling that she feels when she sees Bellamy again. So just an insane range of emotions, a range of emotions that Alyssa Taylor shows in this one. I thought were just amazing. So anyways, Clark does lose her mom, although she really lost her last episode, but now she loses her for good, and that is really going to change Clark, I think, going forward, and we'll have to see what they give her in Season 7. Hopefully, they give her a little bit more of like a positive story, because she's had a lot of negative stuff in the last couple seasons here, and so hopefully she kind of comes back, and we'll have to see. Is she willing to do better again if it means losing Maddie, for example, this time? We'll have to see how that goes too. But anyways, guys, that'll just about do it for my review of the finale. This season, overall, not the worst season of the show. I wouldn't say it was the best, though. But I think overall, it was really entertaining and some really great new stuff displayed. This finale did feel a little bit rushed, a little bit lackluster. But there were some really great stuff as well in this one, especially some of the stuff in the middle, the beginning, I thought was stronger. But yeah, so anyways, guys, love you guys' thoughts on this one and the season as a whole, as always. But otherwise, we'll see you then next year for the 100 Season 7, the final season coming out then. But yeah, anyways, guys, again, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you then in my next review.